Currently, the DNR's plan, when they see an overpopulation in an area, is to bring in a federal trapper. The federal trapper is not doing anything any different than what a private individual would be doing if the DNR institutes a wolf hunt. And I think back to the 70s and 80s with a number of folks that I spent a lot of time with, and they hunted and trapped coyotes. And part of that was because of the fur market, but a larger part of that was because they also valued pheasant hunting, grouse hunting, deer hunting, duck hunting, and the coyote would kill off, if they overpopulated, would kill off the young birds or even some of the deer. And so they managed the coyote population to help protect their ability to do the other hunting that they enjoyed. And those things brought in revenue to the state of Minnesota. We have discussions here all the time about chronic wasting disease and how that could have a terrible impact on deer hunting in Minnesota, yet we seem to fail to have the same discussion around the impacts that the wolves are having and how it is negatively impacting deer hunting. Mr. President, I heard some chuckles and when Senator Westrom was bringing up a point. Well, Mr. President, 9 years ago, when I served in the other body, there was a bill that was there to prevent muskies from being stocked in 10 lakes in Minnesota. And to bring up this point that we're talking about today, I offered an amendment that said we should allow stalking of the gray wolf in the Twin Cities metro area. Mr. President, 3 members who represented districts in the Twin Cities metro area stood up to speak against that, saying, we have small pets and children here, and we should not be having the gray wolf in our backyards. That's dangerous. Mr. President, I responded saying, thank you. You're proving my point. Rural Minnesota has pets. Rural Minnesota has children. And the gray wolf, because of overpopulation, is coming into our backyards. Mr. President, I have 62 acres. 3 weeks ago, my neighbor saw a gray wolf running through my back pasture. Now, Mr. President, I don't have animals and I don't have small children anymore, but I have neighbors that do. One neighbor has lost 3 calves just this last year. And one might think, well, maybe it was something else. Well, guess what, Mr. President? For years, I could go out at night as it was getting dusk, and I would hear the coyotes yipping and howling all around. Mr. President, it's been 2 years since I've heard much of any coyote activity in my area. Mr. President, I've had many conversations with the federal trappers and conservation officers and other people, and they say there's typically one reason coyotes would move out of an area where they've been for so long, and that's because the gray wolf has moved in and driven them out. And if the gray wolf has driven the coyote out, where has the coyote gone? It's moving into other areas. I think many of us can say that the sightings have begun to happen in the metro area. And Mr. President, the thing that we have to keep in mind and consider as we have this discussion, as a turkey hunter, I know how challenging it is out in rural Minnesota to get a turkey to actually come in to where you are because they are so skittish. But yet, members, if you drive around the Twin Cities metro area today, you can almost walk right up to a turkey. And you might think, how challenging could it be to turkey hunt? But it's because the turkey has lost its natural instinct by being around humans so closely. We're starting to see that same thing with the coyotes who have moved in. And Mr. President, it is just a matter of time before the gray wolf moves in and starts losing its natural instincts in the metro area. Members, we should not be waiting for that moment of human conflict before we are ready to do this. The DNR knows they can manage this. They know they can use private individuals to do it. They can raise revenue by doing it instead of paying federal trappers to do it, and the results will not be any different. I've heard talk about how this disrupts the pack, how it's not natural. Mr. President, I had a conversation with one of my local conservation officers, and we had in northern Pine County what he referred to as a super pack. Because a federal trapper had not been able to come into that area for over 2 years, the pack had grown to over 30. Mr. President, that's not natural either. And it was devastating to cattle farmers and people who had horses up in that area. Mr. President, why couldn't the federal trapper get there for over 2 years? Because they're so busy all around the state. And in conversations I've had with them, when they come into an area, they have to get in and out so quick because they're needed in so many places. They can't accomplish what they really need to help reduce the population within an area. But if we allow the DNR to manage the hunt and allow private individuals to do it, we will be able to do just that. So, Mr. President, this amendment, we should not be voting for it. We should be allowing the DNR to manage a private wolf hunt. Thank you, Mr. President.